Hello, my good people. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. This is your host and creator of Are You Being Gentle with Your Mental? Just the Best. And today's guest is Richard Blacksher. He was born and raised in San Bernardino, California, and discovered a passion for music at the age of 7 when he began writing and recording songs through the guidance of his uncles. His hobbies quickly grew into a profession as he was contracted as a church pianist by the age of 12. By 16, Richard was well established within his community as a writer, producer, rapper, composer, and pianist. His personal accolades include awards for poetry, screenwriting, and film composition. Today, we discuss music, community work, and fatherhood. Let's dive into this mindful discussion with Richard Blacksher. All right. Welcome, Richard. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I just put my mug away. I was going to say I'm being gentle with my mental today, but
I know.
switched the cup by. There you go.
We have it covered for you. But thank you so much for joining us today. We're actually starting a new series, and you are the first artist that we actually get to discuss about building the table, to really share the beauty and the struggle as a multifaceted artist. And you're just truly incredible, multi-talented. I want to know, what is your favorite medium?
Woo. Definitely music. I think for me, music is like the thing that it takes less of an effort for me to think about in order to get started. Um, I'm a screenwriter as well, but I haven't screenwritten in a long time because for whatever reason, it always ends up, however I'm feeling about like a script always turns into a song. Um, One of my friends today, I wrote a poem for his church, and he was like, "You should do spoken word." And I was like, I don't, because it always gets thrown into a song. So yeah, music is definitely the first language for me.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's really it.
I know you just released a new song, Goodbye Mary, and I just want to know, what was inspired from that?
Oh, that's a long story. So Goodbye Mary, there's a lot to unpack with that, but I don't even know where to begin. I guess just the lyrics of the song kind of started with, I had recently, when I started writing the song, my cousin Evan had passed away. It was just, I don't want to say it was a freak accident, but as we kind of learned more, it was kind of inevitable, but we just didn't. No one knew it was going to happen as quickly as it did. He had just begun law school, and like literally like the first weekend there, and he wasn't picking up his phone. Long story short, they found him in his dorm room, and he had passed. He was in a coma. Um, so that whole weekend was just very like um, just kind of sobering. This is a guy. He was younger than me. He was younger than me, and I knew he was going to have a better future than me. And thinking about how like our both of our birthdays are in November. Just thinking about seasons and life. That made me start writing the song about just losing someone that you know and you've loved them for years, and they just leave without really giving a word. And there's a song that Stevie Wonder has called "Where Were You When I Needed You," and that literally he's asking the same thing. Stevie Wonder's talking to a woman, and he's saying, like, you were here when the summer came, you were not around. Now the summer's gone and love cannot be found. Where were you when I needed you? And he's just talking about the whole seasons of, being with this woman. And at the beginning of the song, he says, Mary wants to be a superwoman. So that's where even the title Goodbye Mary comes from. Um, again, that song was birthed out of me losing my cousin Evan. But I originally wrote it for an artist who her husband was in the military. And she was like, I need a song where, it's about loss. And I was like, I got I have these lyrics. So she was not able to use it for her project. We bounced it around to other people, and we performed it like for maybe like a year or so, and we just decided to just record it, because we loved the song. We stuck by the song, and it's something that we feel like everybody can relate to. Everybody can relate to being with someone in any capacity, whether it's a loved one, a partner, and then they're just gone.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, rest in power to your cousin. Um,
Appreciate it.
Definitely would love to get into more of your music and know about some things that you're currently working on that people can look forward to.
Good question. So I'm currently doing a lot more writing for people right now. There are a couple artists that I have been working with. One is Cast the Muse. She's Haitian, so there you go. She's has her own music that she just put out, and we're kind of grinding some stuff out, trying to get a new sound for her and see where she wants to take it. One of my dear friends, Sarah Hollins, is working on her project, so you'll be seeing that soon. I've done, we've just, I don't, I probably won't get credit for it, but I've been helping, so I get to say that. But other than that, like I'm working on an album. It's a follow up to the EP I put out. It's kind of going to be the completion of that EP, and um, it just takes a lot to write jazz. You and I were just kind of talking about how the kind of music make is very collaborative. So I don't have the luxury anymore of um, not just, and this is no diss to rappers, because I love rapping still, but the kind of music I make now, I don't have the luxury of giving my audience just me on making beats and then rapping over it. Like it takes composition and bringing in multiple people, multiple instrumentalists. Yeah, but I am doing a rap album. And I'm also doing a joint rap album with one of my friends whose name is Beezy. We've pretty much done recording with that. I keep looking at the calendar because it's like it was supposed to be out in May, or we're supposed to be done with it in May, but it's like end of March, and I have no idea. So, but a lot.
Well, I know you've been actually an artist ever since you were a child. Who were some of the artists that really like motivated you or gave you that energy to just be who you are today?
Oh man, um, so many artists. Again, like I grew up with Stevie Wonder. Like my parents, like I didn't appreciate Stevie Wonder until I was an adult, and that's because my parents always had Stevie Wonder on. My brother always jokes with me that my parents, um, they got saved in the '90s, so I didn't really grow up with like '90s R&B. Like it was literally they stopped at like they played everything all the way up to like Tina Marie, and then so I have a lot of Prince influences. I have a lot of Stevie Wonder influences, Michael Jackson, of course. Me personally, I grew up listening to rock and hip hop. So in gospel, I played for I've been playing for churches, since I was in the seventh grade. So, my top three influential artists for gospel is Ty Tribbett. For hip hop, it's Kanye West, and for rock, it's this band named Say Anything, and the guy who leads that is Max Bemis, and I love that band.
Thanks. Well, you definitely said one of mine. Kanye West is definitely an artist of like just the greatest.
Just like, and I even hate bringing that up now because he's controversial, and rightfully so. He is rightfully controversial, but
Yeah.
he's you can't deny the music. You and it's hard to separate music from the person, but you can't deny the talent or the creation he's made.
The genius that he is. But don't I wouldn't digress from Kanye.
I, I'll say I can go on for hours about
Me too.
Kanye West. It's pretty bad. It's not bad. I'm proud of it.
I am too. I'm not proud of. I know when I was in high school, I actually was involved in like a sculpting like class, and
Hmm.
I tried to like make the little bear that he used to like promote as him, and put it as a piggy bank. I think I actually still have it. I won't
I
grab
was
it.
gonna say, please tell me you still have that.
I do have it. I'll show you after. I'll tell you after because I actually still do have it, and that's like over 10 years ago. So, yes, you see much of a little hoarder that I am. That's just an honest moment, but I just love that because I was like, honestly, like, my favorite thing that I made in there. I just love Kanye West. I don't use it as a piggy bank. It's just still here with me. So yes, it's a little fun fact, but
It's a good paperweight.
yes, most definitely. And to kind of, get back into the conversation, just even during like the uprise of the community last year, we really had the chance to meet for the first
Mm.
time ever, just through some mutual
Yeah.
friends and the community. And now we're really working together to improve our community. And I just want to know what keeps you motivated or even committed with doing community work.
Oh man, that's such a good question. Honestly, and this again goes back to something we just talked about. But I just for me, it's just knowing that I'm not alone in this. And I know that's probably something that is for people our age or even people younger than us. Um, it's kind of, I want to say daunting, but it seems like such a daunting task to look at the area we live in, look at the Inland Empire, and say like, well, I know something should be done, but I don't have G to do it. And I just feel such a great, you know, actually, I was talking to the president, NAACP president, because we're supposed to say that, like, say it like that. Chache Wright, about just the fact that, the organization NAACP has changed in the last 50 years, even just in our area. Um, but we're all doing something. You look at the people who are in the organization right now, you, myself, your brother, Chache, Shay Wright, all those people. And it's it could be really hard when you see like, okay, we need somebody to represent people who are wrongfully incarcerated for possession of marijuana. We need to have an organization that helps you um, with the arts and in music. We need to have people who are in education who are working with Black and brown kids and giving them books that are other than Harry Potter or something like that. And it could be really daunting for somebody to be like, okay, well, this has to be one organization, but it doesn't. We're all individual people, and we get to you know do our own help, and we get to support each other. I get to help in music changing lives. Chache and NAACP gets to help me in my classroom. And the circle keeps going and it grows and expands. And that's honestly what community work is. You can't have community work being done by individuals. It has to be a community working together and expanding through the individuals. I just made that off the top of the dome. Like, I'm really proud of how that came out because I wasn't sure if that was going to sound stupid, but I think it came out okay.
Not at all. You're doing fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. And
Usually I'm the one asking questions, so this
take
is
the cape off.
this is new
Take
for me.
the cape off. I know,
Yeah, right.
we just had we actually did a dual interview with each other, so now it's my turn. As
Right.
just a little fun fact. But I know we've actually really had real conversations, me and you, other than this one, and just with collaboration and just talking about the amazing leaders that you just mentioned in this region. And so, who has been someone that has helped you pave the way to understand why this work is so important? I know we discussed about your parents, and I don't know if those are the people, but if somebody else wasn't, then maybe who?
I mean, yeah, definitely. It really just is my parents. Like my dad, dragged. No, he didn't say he dragged me. He coaxed me into going, town hall meetings. I was in town hall meetings when I was like in the seventh, eighth grade. He would just, this was like the early 2000s, so I didn't have an iPad. He had like a laptop, which is like he put movies on the laptop, which was like revolutionary at the time. So I would be in the city hall meetings, you know, listening to the mayor and watching people yell at each other and stuff, and I would like have like be watching Fast and Furious on my dad's laptop. My mom has always been super active in the community. Um, and I sometimes just wish she would sit down, but she's not going to. So who am I? But even with that, my parents were influenced by, you know, these mavericks like Dr. Margaret Hill, like Wilma Amina Carter, like Ratibu J. Cox, like organizations like WAG, West Side Action Group. Like this is a legacy that this is like a legacy that dates back all the way to like when my parents were born, even before they were born, of, you know, my family having activism roots in San Bernardino specifically. So it was kind of something that I was expected to do. Let me not say expected, but it was kind of like this is just what you do. You go to school, you do your chores, you help out in the community.
And, can you even share about the community? I know I would love to hear your perspective while growing up in San Bernardino because it has such that negativity, like stigma on it, but you definitely are a shining star from there.
I appreciate it. That comes with a lot of maturity and expansion. Of just I I'll put it like this: I'm well aware of the privilege that I have, and how I grew up, which gives me, you know, the insight or even foresight to look at the world differently. Um, it was, again, it's interesting. I was just had a conversation with one of my friends. Like we could have, if even being in the classes we were in high school. I went to Royal Valley High School. If you knew about it back in the day, it was an arts magnet school that they built in the middle of three gang territories in on the west side of San Bernardino. Why they did that? Why they did that? I'm still like, I don't know the history behind it. I know who was involved. I don't know why they chose that location, but they did. But because of that, and that's not a diss. It really is just interesting how, like, you know, this school where you had all these Black and brown youth from all over San Bernardino, you know, it was attractive to that because, again, it was an arts magnet at the time. It was state of the art. Like there was a piano lab. There was a whole classroom just for piano. The theater was incredible and ahead of its time. Um, the music department, there was like three music buildings. And then, you know, you would leave, like I vividly remember like leaving like orchestra or something, and then you see like someone selling weed in the hallway, or somebody had clearly gotten into a fight because you see weave tracks, you know, on the basketball court. So it's just, I mean, San Bernardino really is, not to say that it was dangerous, not to say that it wasn't dangerous. It's kind of one of those things where it's like this is just where I grew up. And I got to see San Bernardino at its height of its beauty when, you know, when Route 66 was like the pinnacle of what you could do in the summer or at the end of the summer, and where it really was America City. I got to see the part where um, it was thriving financially, but I've seen more of it as I've grown up and been an adult. I've seen more of it as politicians make mistakes, as politicians. I'll just be frank, as some politicians are corrupt, as we've seen that in the news. So it's not that San Bernardino is not a city that's beyond saving. It is a city that can be saved. The problem is, it goes back to community work. The community of San Bernardino has to believe that it's a city worth saving, and there's not a lot of people who have hope still.
Richard for mayor. Um,
I know. I just looked at the way my hand was, and I was like, "Is that the Obama fist?" Where he's like, "Good night." Yeah. Anyway.
Definitely love that response on what you said. And, I definitely look forward to the day that San Bernardino does turn around. And I do see small changes happening. And so I'm really proud of that. And, just with representation and knowing that it matters, um, I know you're also a father, and I would love for you to share just a message that you have for fathers in this generation.
Hmm, I don't know. I mean, I love being a dad. So like, I don't know. I guess a message. I think for me, I love being a dad because I loved what like my dad, and I've said this before. Um, I've said it many times. Um, my dad made being a dad look like the coolest thing in the world. And I'm sure he had hard days. I'm sure he had days where he couldn't do it. Um, and I do wish that I had an opportunity to see my dad and my son interact. Um, but for me, I think the biggest thing is that I know that my son is my future. And not even to say like, not to say it in terms of like, you know, my financial future, as in like he has to go to college, he has to get a good job, so that way when I retire, I'm not taking care of him. Like, not to say it like that. I know that's what people think of when they say, your son is your future, but like my son is like, he's my legacy. And however he wants to be, whoever he wants to be, however, whatever he chooses to do with his life, it's something that I can't wait to see and say, wow, like I can't wait to just be proud of whatever he is. If he wants to be a musician too, if he wants, because he's already shown interest in music. Um, heck, even if he decides that he wants to go to like clown college or something and become like, the next uh Barnum, uh I don't I would love to be like, yo, like my son is the best circus person in the world. And I just can't wait to see what he grows up and becomes, honestly.
That's amazing. And I know, with growing up, right, there's that whole society norm. Like when you turn 18, you got to get out of my house. Like, is that going to be the same for you, or you just,
That's funny. I was actually just talking to one of my students about that. Yeah, my parents actually like kicked me out the house. Like not because I didn't even do anything wrong. It was just like my first year in college, and they were like, "Yeah, so we want a home gym, um, and you're still here." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't really make a lot of money." And they're like, "Yeah, but," so they made me move in with my grandma, um, which was fine. Like it was cool, but it was just like how come I can't stay here? So anyway, so they kicked me out the house at 18, so they could have a home gym. It wasn't like a you live on your own type thing. It was more so we you are taking up space.
right?
So I don't know if I honestly, the way I see my son right now, I feel like he's not gonna. I feel like I'm gonna try to hold him down as much as I can. I think he wants to leave right now, and he's only 4. And I'm like, yo, you can't drive. Like, where do you go? But yeah.
That's really cute. I know for me, growing up, I guess I seen everybody already like leave the house, like leave the nest, and I was just like, okay, I can't
Mm,
wait to be independent. I was just like, let me learn how to drive, let me learn how to start calling apartments to see if there is availability.
you were the baby though, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sure you were, and now that I know how many siblings you have, I'm sure you were kind of just watching that your entire life. Like, okay, is it my turn yet? Is it my turn yet?
Right. Or when, okay, like when it is my turn, like this is how it's gonna look. I literally still have drawings in my journals of how like my first apartment was gonna look like. And it's truly identical to the one that I'm in now, but
Hmm.
it's like there's some like differences. And so I feel like that's like a low-key manifestation talk that I could share, but it's really neat that I was able to experience moving out even before 18, then right at 18, just really experienced my first anxiety attack because I didn't know how to balance. I didn't know how to,
Mm,
really understand that I shouldn't be like in college, first year, first experience without guidance, without accountability, but then ended up making like all these just like poor choices with having a home and like under my name. And so
yeah.
um that was just like, okay, I'm not dealing with society norms anymore. This is like I'm co-creating my own world. I know I don't have kids yet, but what maybe is like something that you hope for your son's generation?
Honestly, I think for my son, and this is something that I'm really just like what you said, just being aware of societal norms, but choosing to ignore them. And that's honestly my biggest fear for him is that um, he's going to grow up he's already growing up in a society where, um, whether he knows it or not, that we in this country, in this world, put so much stock on what is this person doing? Um, what is the next person doing? It's trends, it's our fashion, it's our um, even down to our spiritual practices. And I know this is something that we talked about just now how you're a wellness coach. Um, and even that kind of not you. You're great. You know what you're doing. What scares me is how many people, don't know what they're doing and don't have research, but because it's a trend right now, or let me not say trend, it's a part of the conversation right now that mental health is very important, which it is, but you have so much false information going in. So my fear, honestly, for my son is that, as culture keeps changing and culture keeps dominating through social media or whatever, or the news or whatever the case may be, that he could observe it and take what is beneficial for him and reject everything else. I think that's something that my parents instilled in me. They really just let me be whoever I wanted. Um, there's a lot of stuff that my parents encouraged me to do. Let me not say encourage. They just let me do, and they're just like they just weren't annoyed by it, or if they were annoyed, they just didn't tell me. And they just let me be myself. And it's interesting, like those things that they let me be myself that I was doing, like, at 13, 14 years old, that is now the thing that is what everyone is trying to do.
Mm,
Um, and and I just can only imagine if I was the kind of person or the kind of kid who was like, put so much stock and so much anxiety and stress off of, this is what I see happening. um I wouldn't be who I am today. And that's my biggest thing. I just want my son to be who he is, and I don't want him to think about being anybody else or trying to keep up with anybody else.
yeah, most definitely. And that's where even like just the best really comes from. I
Mm,
gave myself that name. I used to write poetry and was writing by myself, and I was like, you know what? Just the best. I was like, okay, that rhymes, that goes, and now you guys are about to start calling me just the best. Because not only will I always hold myself accountable, but I will always give my best. I will always give my best energy. I will always
mm.
make sure that I recognize you and honor you for who you are. Um, and
And
just
name
that.
No, yeah, no, like naming yourself is important, especially. I mean, like, I know this is your thing, and I almost hijacked it and thought it was my thing again. But like that is, the what creatives do. People who create, people who grind and again, you have a podcast, you work, like you said, you played piano and violin earlier. Um, Naming yourself is not just like about a moniker in having like just a cool rap name or a cool stage name, which is why I think we have so many Lils and so many young whatevers. It really is about like, no, this is who I am because this is who I feel like on the inside. You know, I always think about Beyonce saying, you know, the Sasha Fierce album. Like she had to make that album so she can know, like, this is who I am on the inside and I can pull it out. For me, like my moniker used to be R&B. Um, and even though I've gotten away from it, like that mindset that I have of whenever I am creating or doing something that I know is authentically myself, even though I do it under the name Richard Blacksher still, it's I pull from that. I named myself um, so that I can do this thing as myself,
Exactly.
just the best.
Exactly. So, I always love to share that story because um I think I think what you said is just it's really important to know who you are and like to know thyself and to love thyself because what I experience when doing that in my own inner work, I can also share that with others when doing work, um,
Mm.
and be able to encourage them. And, I was really able to learn how Just the Best, but also Just the Mess was in college because,
Sorry, just the mess.
yes,
Yes. Okay.
because I was on a really tight rope, you know what I mean, or a thin rope, whatever it might be, because like I was just like, okay, I'm living this life, I'm understanding, I'm out on my own, and maybe if you can just even share how was your college experience and have you ever thought about returning?
Yeah. How was my college experience? My college experience was interesting in terms of like, I don't have any story. I wish I had like cool stories where I was like, yeah, I was at this party and then this happened. Or I was always like, I'm still the same person. Sadly, I haven't really grown. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but I'm pretty much how I am. How I was at 16 is who I kind of still am now. Um, so in college, it was kind of the same. Like I was never a person who was like going out all the time. But for me, I love just learning, and I love not just learning in like class, but learning and doing the different experiences. So there was like my first year in college. I went to community college, so I was still living in San Bernardino. I was going to RCC at the time, so my first 2 years, and I just hung out with a lot of people. Like I went to concerts in LA. Um, I went to open mics. I learned so much about the city of Riverside, more than most people would know who even lived there. I met a lot of cool people. Like one of my friends from college, he, has gone on to work with like Solange and Beyonce. Another one of my friends from college is like, he's a model. I'm not. Anyway, but that's just the kind of people I was surrounded by. Then I transferred to Cal Baptist, and that honestly changed my life. It wasn't my first choice school to transfer to. I stayed there two more years, 2 years more than I planned on it. But like that school gave me so much insight for good and for bad, just about how the world works, how um, people outside of my race work. Again, I was born and raised in San Bernardino. I don't really know a lot of white people. Like I knew 5 white people when I was in high school, and they were all on the water polo team. Um, when I got to Cal Baptist, it was an eye opener. I looked in a class. The largest class at Cal Baptist I took was like 30 people, but I looked up in the class and I was like the only Black person in like 6 of my classes. I was in the choirs at Cal Baptist. One of the biggest choirs I was in was like 150 people, and even in that choir, there's like 10 Black people, and then the director put like 4 of us next to each other. So we're just like, is this racism anyway? But it was one of those things where it's just like that just opened my eyes into what this world is. And it was so much bigger than my view of just Black America. It expanded me to see, they Cal Baptist gave me the opportunity to see like 20 states. They sent me to Alaska. during spring break, and I'm still pissed off about that. But I've been to Alaska. I was able to go to Japan and perform for 3 weeks because of that. So college for me was really just a lot about cultural learning and again, of course, school. I do have my master's. I was actually going to get my doctorate or apply to get my doctorate. But like the more I thought about it, the person I was going to go do my PhD with, he was like, "Nah, I'm not going to do it." And I'm like, "You know what? I don't think it's worth it right now. I'm enjoying not having gray hair. Um, so maybe when I get a little bit more gray hair, then I'll go back. But I'm straight."
Interesting. That's really interesting. And I know you talk about your creative spaces as well, how you've been able to be a musician within, college and have that experience with traveling. And that's just truly amazing. And I know, this new series is talking about like building the table. And if you can even just visualize a table right now,
Mm.
if you had to choose like 4 pillars or 4 principles, like what would be built with your table?
Like principles, as in like just like my core tenets of like this is
Mhm.
who I am.
Correct.
Um, I think service, as in um, just knowing that no matter what I do, it's not for my benefit. It's so that the next person can thrive. Um, so service is one. Um, Truth is another one for me. I'm a big proponent of um, just understanding what the truth is. I used to believe that I used to subscribe to like there there are multiple truths. Um, Not to say that I don't believe that anymore, but I kind of have shifted that thinking into it's not that there's multiple truths, but there is one truth with very different sides. So you can't create if you don't have truth. You can't, just like what I was saying about Goodbye Mary. Um, if we don't have that core truth of knowing that loss happens, and then I can't pull from my experience and say how loss happens. And Stevie Wonder can't pull from his experience and say how loss happens. And me and my friends, we joke that Goodbye Mary really is that Stevie Wonder song, but we just, but we get to approach it from a different perspective because it's the same truth. We're just looking at it at a different side. Ooh, tables have 4 legs.
2 more, 2 more.
I know. Um, no fear. That's not a word. I can't think of a word that means no fear.
Okay.
But one of my friends, a guy who I met recently and has definitely become a friend, has inspired me with this quote. His name is PR, so I'll definitely shout him out for this. But PR's told me um, that raw creation is never wrong. Charge ahead. And for me, that just means that you can't have fear about whatever it is that you're doing. It again, like I said earlier, it's really easy. Is we have so much access to see what the trend is, what's on TikTok, what's on Instagram, what's on Twitter, what gets the most views, what gets the most likes or interaction. And because of that, I'll just say it for myself. Because of that, I get so bogged down into okay, well, if I want this result, then I got to do it like this, like this, like this, like this. And then I spend so much time trying to find the algorithm or the formula that I didn't create anything.
Mm.
So for me, I think the biggest thing, and I'm still working on this, I'm still practicing it, is just creating and not creating for the sake of creating and not with an audience in mind, not for a result in mind, not for like monetary gain or whatever. For myself, it is all just about I have to create first. And I guess the fourth thing is community, honestly. Um, I don't believe that music is something that should be created alone. Not to say that it can't be created alone. Like some of the greatest pieces of all time, Beethoven, he wrote alone, but he performed for people. He had people in mind when he was writing his pieces. He had musician. He knew that a musician was going to play this, even long after he was dead. So in this world where, we can make music by ourselves, we can make a movie by ourselves, we can do pretty much anything by ourselves, star, act, write, whatever. For me, I think we have to focus back on collaboration and community.
I love that. And that is your table. And
That is my table.
I know, in our interview that we did together, we discussed self-care and why that's so important. And we even with the podcast being, the question, are you being gentle with your mental? One, are you? And then when did you realize that self-care was like a necessity, truly as a man?
The way you said that right now, one, are you being gentle with your mental? Like it really was like,
No,
are you Richard? Like it felt personal. It's okay. Am I being gentle with my mental? I
100%
am a
honest.
100% honest, and I have no problem being 100% honest. I'm working on it. Um, I really am, and I had a lot of big life changes. Um, just a lot. With family, like every sense of my family. And I hope, like, I really hope if my family is listening to this, they don't get offended by me. I'm not gonna go into details, but um it just is a lot of changes that happened. I've never dealt well with big changes. Even in college, like a month before I was gonna graduate, I like started having, like, I'm gonna say, I just started having mental blocks. Like I know I can recognize it now. If I'm like stressed, I start forgetting things. Like the very first thing to go is like my keys. Um, so what happened in college? Like I lost my keys like for like 3 weeks straight. Um, and they were like, it wasn't even like they were like somewhere in some far place. They were literally like right on the counter, and I just could not see them or have them. And then it got so bad that I lost like my whole equipment bag. So like again, as a broke college student, that's like I had like $500 worth of equipment, and I lost it. And it wasn't even that I lost it. I like left it at a rehearsal on campus and it was there for like a week. Thank God no one touched it. But like anyway, so just to talk about that, um, I now know for myself when I'm mentally not okay. Um, and that for me kind of started, it's been, that was like a two, it was like a, that journey kind of started for me back in like 2017 when I started finishing my master's. And I was getting stressed again, like new levels of stress I never felt before. And one of my dear friends gave me, told me to read The Alchemist. And it just so happened I was finishing my master's. I finished reading The Alchemist, and then I had to start doing student teaching. Um, and the teacher wanted me to teach, these high school kids this book called Siddhartha. So I had just finished The Alchemist, which is about a guy. It's a metaphor for the spiritual journey. So it's a metaphor for the spiritual self. And I was reading this book or teaching this book called Siddhartha. Is the very first time I had heard of it, very first time I had read it. So I'm literally reading like 4 chapters ahead of the students. But it's about it's like a fictionalized version of how Buddha created Buddhism. So I'm reading Siddhartha. I'm studying I'm studying Buddhism to make sure that my lessons are on point. And the something strikes out to me from the Buddhist tenets, which is all life is marked by suffering. And it kept sticking to me. All life is marked by suffering. And I'm a Christian. I play for churches. I play for Christian artists. And as a Christian, you're taught, don't ever look at any other religion. I've never kind of been that person, but so I was curious. I was like, okay, all life is marked by suffering. Why does that keep sticking out? And the Holy Spirit kind of like really looked, kind of spoke to me and said, okay, now what can cure suffering? Or even with that, doesn't it, he said, again, all life is marked by suffering. Doesn't that sound like count it all joy when you go through trials of various kinds? And I was like, yeah, like that is the same thing. And realizing that, I'm not the first person who has gone through these mental challenges. I'm not the first person who's been stressed. I'm not the first person who is going to deal with issues. Even right now, I'm not the first person who's dealt with these family issues before. But because again, all life is marked by suffering. But then I like to plug it in now. That's what Jesus is for. That's how you know that you're moving into a new level in life. It sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm pissed off at like all the stuff that I'm dealing with right now. But where I am being able to be gentle with my mental is saying like, but thank God that I know that this isn't the end. That my suffering is not one. It's not for nothing. Like I'm my writing is really, really good right now because of the suffering. Um, but again, it's also knowing that I get to share my story with so many people, so many different artists who, again, the artists I'm working with, the artists that look up to me for whatever reason, even just people. And I get to say like, hey, like like you see what I'm going through, but I'm not giving up. I'm still here. I'm still smiling. I'm still going to be the best version of myself that I can until I become a better version.
Yes, Richard. And I just want to say just thank you for being honest and open and even transparent, hot as my Pastor Michael Todd says.
Right.
But this interview was truly informative, and to be able to learn about who you are and just the journey and what you're dealing with, knowing that you're not alone. I just want to share that with you, that I definitely will keep you in prayer as well, and in my thoughts, especially with your family, because both of us know that I have a large family dynamic, and so things can also come at times where it's just like out of our control. But to continue to hold it down for yourself and protect your energy, as I was saying earlier. But I really want to also give you the time, just to share how people can support you and on your journey. And just I'll definitely add any links that people can directly get to you. But right now, how can individuals support you?
Good question. The best way you guys could support me is by streaming my music. As honest as I am on this podcast is how honest I am on the music. My latest EP is called Apocalypse Now. And it's just about what it's like to. I mean, I had to joke. It is an album that's about me processing, the death of loved ones, especially in the pandemic. So that one. But I also, if it's too real for you, I re-released my first two albums that I actually made in college. One is called The Soundtrack, and the other one is called 6 Songs in the Movie. And again, those are just same thing, what I was dealing with in college. And it still definitely applies to what I'm doing now. If you follow me if you have anything, I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all with the same username at RNB762, letter R, letter N, letter B, 762. I spelled it out, but I realized this is a podcast. So my finger moving is nothing. It means nothing.
Well, you mean something. And I just want to say thank you so much, Richard, for sharing this interview with me on this time and being present. Peace and blessings to everyone listening. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Are You Being Gentle with Your Mental? And we're sending you much love, and bye.
Why I waved again? No one's watching. Wait, this one is being recorded.
This
Okay.
is all right. So now we can pause.
My podcast now has merch. Begin each day with the Aura mug to remind yourself to connect with your senses. Take a mindful moment to check in with your mental thoughts, emotions, and or by asking yourself, are you being gentle with your mental? Which is featuring a unique design of hands protecting the divine energy of your brain. This mug empowers us to be kind with ourselves and others. Remember, we cannot pour from an empty cup. So may this cup always be filled with a flow of positive energy, and you can purchase yours today or gift somebody by going on my website, jessbeu.org, and go ahead and support the mindful communities that we're building together. Peace and love, y'all.